Hey there, scribe Sarah here, and welcome to today's episode of the Right Podcast. I'm so glad you're here and spending this time with me. Because you are here, that tells me that you're a writer. Whether you're dreaming of becoming one or you've just started penning your first novel, or maybe you've already written and published a dozen novels. You are a writer and you're in the right place. This show was made for you, my friend. I didn't used to be a big reader of fantasy. I like to watch them as movies, don't get me wrong. The Hunger Games and Divergent series hooked me in big time, and I still rewatch Game of Thrones on the regular. But fantasy books looked too big and scary, and I was deep in my contemporary romance era. Then I started hearing all this talk about a new book called Fourth Wing. And more importantly to me was that everyone was saying how spicy and romantic it was. I'm all in for a good love story, and I was ready for a spice upgrade. Plus, well, dragons. Okay. To say I became obsessed from page one is an understatement. I will still tell anyone listening that Fourth Wing is the best book I've ever read. Not just the best fantasy, the best. I'm obsessed and have since read just about everything Rebecca Yarros has ever written. And if I can get her on the show one day, I will fangirl so bad. She's talented AF. So then I came out of this fantasy world and was like, wait, where are my dragons? There are no dragons in this world. Thank God it's a continuing series. So now, like so many readers around the world, I am officially a fantasy reader as well. Or at least romantasy, because I need me a good love story. If you are also a romantasy fan, then you are in for a treat, my friend, because today we are talking to A.K. Mulford, author of 26 novels, including fantasy like The High Mountain Court, rom-coms, including She's a Keeper, and paranormals like Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. Let's get into today's show. All right, welcome to the podcast, A.K. Mulford. How are you today, Ellie?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. Let's just dive straight in. So, you haven't been a published author for all that long. Tell me about how you got to this point.
Yeah, my first book came out in August 2021. So it actually hasn't been that long. It feels much longer. Uh, but I've been dancing around the world of publishing for almost all of my life. So I, was one of the classic author stories of from the youngest age was writing books and, filling notebooks and notebooks of stories. I was the kid at summer camp who was under the shade of a tree, writing my stories instead of joining the kickball game. I was the classic, author kid. And then when I was a little bit older, my mom actually worked at an independent bookstore. So I got to see kind of from the bookseller's side of things. And, she would always say to me, one day it's going to be your book on those shelves. And I'm like, yeah, like nobody is an author as a career, like I just, it felt like maybe one or two people. It felt like the equivalent of saying I was going to be like a pop star or a celebrity or something. I just didn't see a pathway to it. And so I kept writing my stories, but went into the sciences and was a wildlife biologist for many years and lived in the jungle of all sorts of places and still filling notebooks of fiction just for fun. And then I started just as a, totally convincing myself, I'm not really going to do this, but I'm going to start reading books about publishing and about drafting, and querying and all of the things of the publishing industry. And for a good 10 years, I kind of was having these little 5-year plans of what I would do if, but I'm, telling myself I would never do it. And then the pandemic happened. And for my birthday, I, asked for a new laptop because mine was so old and had been to many jungles in many countries that it didn't work anymore. And so that was a big, big purchase for us at the time. And I said to my husband, I'm gonna get really serious about publishing. I'm really gonna do it, and he just kind of like looked at my uh abandoned hobby closet of things I said I was gonna do, and I'm gonna be a knitter or I'm gonna be a thing. Um and I was like, no, really, um and that was, as soon as I got the laptop, I started the High Mountain Court, which came out in 2021. It came out 9 months later, and from then on, I've been going full speed ahead.
Amazing. So the High Mountain Court, did you self-publish that one?
Yeah, I published the first two books in that series, and it was as the second book was coming out that the series was doing really well, and I had agents approaching me asking if I wanted representation, if I was thinking about doing some traditional publishing as well. And it had always been my goal to start self-publishing and then eventually branch into traditional publishing as well. I really wanted to be a hybrid author and do both. But I thought I thought the High Mountain Court would be the book that I'd be shouting into the void with and just kind of practicing publishing. I didn't think, it would have like 1 million page reads in its first month and sell 100,000 copies, like I was not expecting it to do what it did. So yeah, it was a whirlwind for sure. And so that series got picked up along with the sale of a new series by Harper Voyager. And around the same time, I launched a second indie pen name of Rom-Coms. So yeah.
You're kind of all over these genres. So you've got the
Yes.
romantasy and then you've got the rom-coms as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there one that you prefer writing more than the other?
I mean, I think fantasy has my heart and soul, and the rom-coms are like fun and exciting, so they're very tonally different, but I almost need both because the fantasy takes so much world building and takes so much mentally out of me. And sometimes, especially in my new series, Dreamslayer, which the first book's coming out next year, it has been so heavy. It's definitely horror adjacent. And so there's some very dark themes. And so being able to, leave that world and jump into like a lighthearted rom-com, I think is good for my mental health to juggle a little bit of both. So yeah, I like having the duality of both those pen names for sure.
Fantastic. Now, I just want to quickly talk about your rom-com series. So you've got some zookeepers.
Yes.
About this.
It's actually funny because I have worked in a zoo, but the series is more based on my time pre that job of working and living in Guatemala, working in wildlife rehabilitation, which is where I met my husband. And so I had so many of these, crazy animal stories and wild animal antics. And I thought I need a place to put all of this. And so I invented this little fictional zoo off the coast of Connecticut in the States on this little island. And it's basically like Zookeeper Bridgerton, where it's a family-run zoo, 7 grown siblings, the sister's the vet, the oldest brother's the carnivore keeper. And so each one of them, all grown single zookeepers. And as different people come in and out of the zoo ecosystem, they all end up getting their own love stories through it. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, it's just really fun, and it has lots of animal fun facts. Honestly, it's a conduit for all of my animal fun facts.
Yeah. Now all you need is like Robert Irwin to like pose for the cover or something.
Honest, I wish I had the kind of Bonds advertising sort of money because thank goodness for him. There was no audience looking for Zookeeper Rom-Coms when I started the series. And then he did his undies advert, and all of a sudden people are looking for hot zookeeper books. And I'm like already sat 4 books into this series going, I've got the perfect books for you.
I know, you could become, not as well known for your fantasy anymore now as well.
It's very true. Honestly, more people there's certain people who don't read fantasy, and I have a co-author series of cozy paranormal books also under my rom-com pen name, and the first book's called Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist, and more people especially here in Australia will see that book cover at events and go, oh my gosh, I know that book. It's definitely had a moment last Halloween, and so we've had a lot of people coming up to us both my co-author and I in the States, and, recognizing that book. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm getting a copy of it off you very, very soon. We both live on the
Yes.
Sunshine Coast, so next time I see you in real life, we're totally getting that. It's I did see it the other day. It's orange pages to match the
Yeah.
cover. I'm like, that's gorgeous. I love that.
It's so pretty. Yeah. Those burnt orange pages. The second you open up the book, people just go, ooh, because it's something different. There's lots of special editions out now, but you usually don't see full color pages like that. So,
Yeah, no, I love it. You've got a lot of special editions. Are these your indie published books or the traditional as well? Everyone, they're all kinds of
yeah.
different?
So the special editions that I do myself are all of my indie titles, but then I also have special editions with book boxes and things like that are organized through my publisher. So there's special editions across the board and both pen names. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, you like to write in very diverse ways. I'd love to talk about this. Your pumpkin spice series, it's sapphic, is that the right word?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So that series was started with my co-author and best friend Kale Morrison, and it started with the premise of a witch gets drunk and summons the ghost of her ex-girlfriend, which is just is so relatable deeply to me, and as a queer person who's dated a lot of witchy women in my life, and and we just thought that was hilarious. And so then the whole town kind of spawned from there. And we have a second book coming out this Halloween called Curses in Cold Brew. And it's another sapphic book as well. So it's an apothecary witch and a female demon who has real kind of like suit mommy vibes, very corporate CEO, very tight buttoned up. And just as, deliciously sexy. So yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Oh, that's exciting. So what is your book count up to now? In 4 years of being published, how many have you got?
Yeah, I have 26 books published and I'm working on number 34 right now.
Oh my gosh.
So I can write faster than I can publish because they do take a lot of love and care beyond the first draft, So there's a lot of different ones in various stages of the pipeline. So I'm working on the drafting of number 34 now. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you have come up with it's the 3-day 30K challenge. Tell us about this, because I think this is incredible.
It's really my kind of like passion project is to encourage authors and writers to try something different and to let go of advice that's not working for them. And I think that there's a lot of writing advice out there that doesn't work for people who are parents or working full time or neurodivergent or have a bunch of other things on their plate. I homeschool 2 kids, so I'm juggling, that with a bunch of other things. And I still want to get my books written. And I think for a lot of people, it's very appealing, the idea of being able to set aside 3 days a few times a year to draft, half a book or a quarter of a book than it is to try and do half an hour every day. And so for this challenge, it's just kind of like a 3-day intensive where we all get together online and we write as much as we can and we set different word count goals, and it's all very neuroaffirming and very gamified. So there's quest maps and fun fantasy names for things. And, people have come and done all sorts of things from like PhD theses to editing to drafting. And we all just kind of focus and work as much as we can in 3 days. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Where can we find out when the next challenge is and get all these goodies?
Yeah, so the next challenge is August 2nd. There's a Discord group that people can join called the 3-Day 30K Writing Challenge. And I also have like a little newsletter going now for that, for people who don't want to join the Discord group but still want to know when the events are happening as well. And you can find all of that through my website, akmulford.com. So it's been this really fun labor of love. We're already going to set aside 4 challenges for next year, kind of do it quarterly. Yeah. And I think it's just really nice for people knowing like these dates are coming up. So, for me, if, my kids need heaps of attention one week and I know I'm not going to get any writing done, it's just nice to know, okay, this date is coming up in a little while and I'll have that time to set aside for this so I can be more patient and more focused and not worry about, that, just do more of my admin stuff and then focus that energy on drafting when that time is set aside. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's incredible. I just think you're so organized. It's amazing, especially with homeschooling. I've got 4 teenagers and I still can't find time.
It's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of joyful chaos for sure. But I think that I've kind of settled into it now and I just kind of vibe with it a little bit more. I'm not as flustered by changing schedules. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So you're coming to the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, of course, in
Yes.
November, which we're super excited for. And on the Friday, you're going to be teaching a workshop on TikTok. So
Yes.
tell me, like, is TikTok really worth it for us in Australia and New Zealand?
I think like it depends how you use it is the real answer. And if you enjoy it, I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough. I think a lot of people are like, well, you have to be on TikTok. And it's like, no, you don't. It's a useful tool if you enjoy it or find a way to use it. But like, you don't have to if you hate it or the idea is super unappealing. I think it always surprises people that I'm not like trying to force people to get on TikTok. I'm like, give it a go. If you like it, keep doing it. If you don't, that's okay. But for me, I use it quite differently than I think a lot of people use it. I definitely use it as a social media platform and not so much as like a marketing forward platform. I do think that works for some people, but less so in Australia and New Zealand than in places like the US and the UK, where they have TikTok shop.
Mm.
So for them, they want to be pushing any video that has a TikTok shop link because they're making a percentage of their sales. So for them, they're advocating and pushing for creators and authors who are promoting on US and UK sites. So different than for us, whereas for me, I definitely use my TikTok more like a social media platform, like a Facebook group almost, where I'm connecting with people. I'm encouraging them to go share about my books, where it's more about like the community engagement side for me than it is about like the one-off sales. But you can use it for that too. I think if you're more keen to use it as like a faceless platform, like I could go deep into the things I'll be talking about in the workshop. But yeah, so basically during the workshop, I'm going to be talking about how to use it if you want to be more like faceless and anonymous, and that you need to have more solid genre marketing and really solid hooks, or you can be a hot mess like me and use it more as a social connecting platform, which you won't have, the as many viral videos and big views, but you've connected with people who do have those. And honestly, I find it more valuable having other people like convincing people to read my books than me doing it myself. I always take that advice better from a friend than from the author themselves anyway. So yeah.
That's brilliant. I can't wait to learn from you. You're such a source of inspiration. This episode is proudly sponsored by the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, one of the most exciting new events on the Australian literary calendar, and I'm thrilled to say I'm hosting it. Join myself and over 80 other authors and vendors for a 3-day festival of creative inspiration, community, and conversations at Venue 114 in Bocarina, just minutes from the beach and surrounded by the vibrant writing culture of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Whether you're a brand new writer dreaming up your first novel or an established author wanting to connect and learn and celebrate this wild creative life, we've got something for you. And bring all your bookish and reader friends too. The weekend is devoted to bookish fun and your chance to meet and chat with authors of all fiction genres, including romance, science fiction, fantasy, crime, and children's. There'll be workshops, panel discussions, author Q&As, and plenty of time to mingle and network and get inspired. You'll hear from some of the biggest names in fiction, including Stephanie Holmes, who's a USA Today best-selling author of dark, delicious fantasy. A.K. Mulford, a Sunshine Coast local who writes fantasy novels, rom-coms, and she's a BookTok star with a heart for magical stories. Rachel Johns is one of Australia's favourite authors of women's fiction and rural romance. Cadence Snow, she's a beloved in the indie romance scene for her gripping and emotional stories. And T.L. Swan, queen of spicy international bestsellers with legions of devoted fans. And Candice Fox, award-winning crime writer and screenwriter whose thrillers you cannot put down. And of course, I'll be there too, not just as your host, but with my own table at the signing, ready to chat, sign books, and cheer you on wherever you are in your writing journey. This is your chance to meet some of your favourite authors, connect with other passionate readers and writers, and soak up an atmosphere of creative energy that will stay with you long after the day ends. Tickets are already selling fast, and this is a 3-day event. So if you're thinking about coming, don't wait. The Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival is proudly sponsored by Serenade Publishing, the Queensland Writers Centre, the Sunshine Coast Libraries, and Baventi. Head to sunshinecoastfictionfestival.com.au to check out the full program and book your ticket now. I can't wait to see you there. 26 books in 4 years still just blows my mind.
Yeah. Bit busy. Some of them were novellas,
Yeah.
so they were, but on average, they average out to about 50,000 words. So on average, they're a full book length.
Awesome. Gosh.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to join the what did you call it the other day? The Mulford Multiverse?
Yes.
Love it. Where would you recommend we start to join your multiverse?
I think there's lots of good points of entry. I think, like, if you're a fantasy lover, start with the High Mountain Court, because that is a finished series, and the first book can be read as a standalone, so you can see if you love it, and then you can binge read the whole series without worrying about the last book coming out. And then A River of Golden Bones is the other fantasy series, another good point of entry because the last book in that series is about to come out in December. And then if you're more of a rom-com lover, like contemporary, lighthearted, feel-good, but still steamy romance, I would say start with She's a Keeper, because that's my first book in my Zookeeper Rom-Com series. And if you like cozy, feel-good Halloween books, start with Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist.
Oh, fantastic. So definitely something there for everyone, which I absolutely love. And awesome. So what advice would you have for our readers, our listeners who are maybe just starting out on their writing and kind of going, oh my God, do I have to write consistently and around that family? And your 3-day challenge sounds amazing. What kind of advice would you give them?
The piece of advice I give most often, and need to remind myself most often too, is be more in love with the act of writing than your book's reception out in the world. And I think that that's a really important thing for people, especially newer authors who are just working on their debut book. You can get so caught up in the marketing of a book that isn't even finished yet that you never finish it, And so I feel like for me, the process of actually sitting down at the keyboard and creating these stories is like almost a sacred process. It's something that is just for me. And then once it's created, then I start, really thinking about, okay, what's it going to do? How am I going to position it? I kind of switch hats into a more business and marketing mindset. But I always have one that's kind of my baby that I'm working on, and is the one that I'm holding precious to me. But I think for me, it's the idea of knowing, like, you're always going to write the next book. It doesn't matter what that book does out in the world. It belongs to the masses now. The next book is the book, and I think for me, it's like, with more and more things coming into the authoring space that like scare people, for me, knowing that I'm always going to be writing, whether it's to make a lot of money or just because I need to, because it's what I've always done. I think that kind of safety and security and knowing that you're always going to be writing books is something that's really important to weather the highs and lows of the publishing industry.
Yeah, that's beautiful piece of advice. I absolutely love that. Oh, thank you so much, Ellie. We have covered a lot, and I just want to go and read all of your books now. I found them in the
Oh,
last the other
thank
day,
you.
and I'm just like, I'm borrowing that book. So,
I love seeing them in the library. I was actually just in Wellington on a little solo writing retreat, and I hid some bookmarks and my books in the library there, and it's just like the best thing
yeah.
seeing books in libraries. Yeah.
Yeah, library's the best. Awesome. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time because I'm sure you've got children to be teaching or books to be writing or something to be marketing.
Yep.
I recommend everyone goes and follows you. So you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, Facebook. You're over everything, aren't you?
I'm everywhere. I'm
Everywhere.
most active on TikTok and Instagram, probably, and also YouTube.
YouTube, yes.
I've started a YouTube that's definitely more author facing. So my other socials are more about like my books and for my readers, but my YouTube is definitely more about helping authors and encouraging them and sharing the behind the scenes of what author life looks like. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It was so lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Ali today, and I really do encourage you to visit her website, akmulford.com, and check out her books. You won't be disappointed. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and please subscribe to the show so I know you want more of these entertaining conversations. Until next time, my friend, keep writing, keep showing up, because your stories matter and you are building something powerful.